Hi, this is Harry Shearer, and you are listening to TV Confidential, a radio show about television.
Ed Robertson along with guest Robert Iles. Robert Iles, Emmy Award-winning writer and producer for television. Bob's new book, Funny is Money, is a humorous, irreverent, deeply personal, but often very moving look at his 40-plus year career writing and producing comedy for network television. A career that not only includes such meteoric highs as winning 2 Emmy Awards in the span of 4 years, but which also had moments that left him wondering exactly how he'd find his piece of ground in an industry that always seemed to be shifting. Funny is Money, available hardcover, paperback, and as an ebook through our friends at Bear Manor Media, as well as Amazon.com. Before we went to break, Bob and I were talking about how television, like many other industries, is an industry based on building and nurturing relationships. One of the other keys to forming, lasting relationships with people whose paths you cross in an industry like television is you got to be able to schmooze. At one point and the other, but you also got to be able. You have to listen. And there are many examples in the book where Bob's ability to listen at a particular moment pays off for him. And it's one of the 39 plus stories that he shares in Funny is Money, which you can find through our friends at Bear Manor Media as well as Amazon.com. But you mentioned one of your first writing gigs after the Tennessee Ernie Ford special was you ended up on the staff of the new Bill Cosby show in the early 1970s.
Right.
And it's a classic example of if you're going to build a show around a comedian like a Bill Cosby, it's important to find a format that works for the talent versus trying to fit the talent, into a round hole, fit a square peg into a round hole.
Yeah.
And one of your first triumphs as a young writer, Bob, is you ended up writing you and Stein ended up, but I'm going to give you the win on this one because it was you who realized, okay, if we write the monologues based on what makes Cosby, the monologues are going to come across, they're going to connect, and that's basically what happened.
Yeah. My good friend George Slaughter, who's still around, he's like 98 or something.
Yes, he is. He is endless. He is the Energizer Bunny.
He's the most unique guy I ever met.
Yes, he is.
He was producing the Cosby Show, and he's from from Laugh-In. He's an Ernie Kovacs and stuff. He's a pretty much hard joke, weird joke guy. And that's very much not Cosby. I mean, and he had all these writers on there who were giants, and we're like this. We were, 22 years old or whatever I was. It was like we were just there to watch and listen. And Pat McCormick was there. He's a lovely man. He became a good friend.
Pat McCormick is a recurring character.
Yeah, because he became a really good friend and just one of the funnier people ever. So we hired him for writing, hired him for acting on shows and stuff. So, but anyway, there was a lot of these kind of jokester guys there. Not to put that down, they had come out of maybe one or two came from Laugh-In, one or two came from the Dean Martin show. So it was like on a variety show, which is normal. And there was like maybe 12 writers, and then we were tacked on. And Cosby almost immediately made it known he just didn't like, I guess from the first script, he didn't like all the jokey sketch stuff or whatever was on. And I remember one time we go into a big meeting with him, and all of us, and he points to, he says, give me some paper, and he's pointing to a typewriter, and one of those, like as if to say he's going to rewrite the thing himself or something. So right away we saw that, we might want to just stay out of that fray because, and we would submit stuff to Digby, and we were really on a learning curve. And eventually, we got, and Digby kind of encouraged us. He helped us to get into writing monologues for Cosby, and Cosby loved them. I mean, we got Cosby voice in the head, or at least I did, and just I don't know how it all worked out. It just topics that we'd come up with about the stuff that Cosby would do. His kind of everyman, approachable stuff that he would just make observations on. So I do remember he was on. I wrote this in the book. He was a guest on the Dick Cavett show, and it somehow came up that there's these writers on my show are writing monologues for me. And Cavett says, "Oh, really? What are their names?" And he said, "Well, I can't tell you their names because they're not in the Writers Guild." We're that close from national fame, and it was true. We were called researchers at first because that's just on the job training. We were writing, we were, but we were not in the Writers Guild. We didn't get our. But eventually, when the show got picked up. I don't know if it got a guarantee or not, but after 13 episodes, then they pumped us up to writer, give us writer credit because we're doing all these monologues. And most of the pretty much open warfare between Cosby and Schlatter after a while. So it was like pretty sad. But because Cosby, I don't have any gossip. I didn't have any gossip about Cosby's womanizing or whatever he was doing. I didn't see any of that, and he was a nice guy to me. Pretty nice. Nice guy.
And my experience, Bob, is we tend to remember people based on how they treat us, regardless of what they may not have done.
So I don't have any views on. I mean, it's despicable, obviously, but I didn't have any witness to that. But he was he's an interesting guy, that's for sure. No question about it.
George Schlatter and Pat McCormick are two of the recurring characters in Funny is Money, Funny is Money, the new memoir by our guest Robert Iles that has a humorous, irreverent, deeply personal, and often very moving look at his 40-plus year career writing, producing comedy for network television. Funny is Money available hardcover, paperback, and as an ebook through our friends at Bear Manor Media, as well as Amazon.com.
Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back.
This portion of TV Confidential is brought to us by our friends at Front Porch Realty, the community of realtors in the Northern Bay area of California that is committed to finding the solution that is best for their clients. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or looking to sell or lease your property in Northern California, call Karen Strain at 415-886-7411 or visit frontporchrealtygroup.com. for more information on how they can help you.
Ed Robertson, thanking you for listening to the TV Confidential podcast. If you like what you hear, please hit the subscribe button so that you won't miss our next episode.
The Smothers Brothers welcome special guests George Burns, Johnny Carson, Alice Cooper, and Red Fox in a premiere of a new weekly hour of music and comedy, Monday night.
Hello, this is Louise Sorrell. I'm talking to TV Confidential, and you should tune in because they're really wonderful.
You'll get absolutely free right in your living room. Tom Smothers, Dick Smothers, John Hartford, Lee French, Jennifer Warrens, Bob Einstein as Officer Judy, Mason Williams, and yours truly, Pat Paulson. Because tonight we bring you the Smothers Brothers show starring the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour. Stick around.
Another interesting guy who happened to be on the staff of the new Bill Cosby show in the early going, back when Schlatter hired, pulled 15 different people from the various shows, was Stanley Ralph Ross, who basically comes across well in your book.
Well, he was definitely a narcissist. I mean,
yes.
The first thing, one of the weird things that early on happened was because we were on there not as writers, but as researchers, as I said, but Stanley took that as we were like a production assistant. So one day he giving Stein, I gave Stein a bunch of money, some money. They go, can you go down and get me some cigarettes? So Stein, of course, did, but it was probably the politic thing to do. And I was, hey man, we're not production. I didn't tell Ralph that, but we're not here as production assistants. I told Stein that. I think Stein we finally cleared it up through Slaughter, who then cleared it up to Stanley. But Stanley became a pretty good friend. I mean, I used one of his but he'd be prone to pomposity.
He was a little full of himself. Yeah.
Yeah, like he said he was in England, and he said there was this great dinner there. There was Prince Charles, there was Lord Mountbatten, me, and some other Churchill or whatever. So we used that line for John Houseman a few years later in Silver Spoons, where he's reminiscing about himself. But that was Stan. I mean, and he's a pretty good friend. I mean, he was an egomaniac, pretty much. But
I don't remember whether this is in Adam West's book or whether this is in Joel Eisner's book. Joel Eisner, the guy who wrote the encyclopedia on the Batman TV show. Because Batman was the show that most people think of when they think of Stanley Ralph Ross.
Yeah, he wrote on that. Yeah,
and even as he was trying to find his way as a writer, a part of him fancied himself an actor.
Right.
And he lobbied. I think he lobbied either Howie Horowitz or probably Howie Horowitz, because Howie Horowitz was the line producer of Batman. So after writing 3 or 4, he lobbied Howie, okay, can I have an acting part? And they wrote a character who appears at the end of the episode. And Stanley is thinking, okay, this is my chance to be an actor.
Mm-hmm.
And he may have had some dialogue in the original as the scene was originally written, but by the time they shot it, they took the dialogue away.
Oh.
It was a Simon bit.
He wasn't a character or anything, was he? Wasn't like a character, he just himself?
It was
a human?
It was a character that you heard about him through the episode, but you don't actually see him until
like an evildoer type guy?
No,
like Penguin, or just a criminal?
He was in The Joint. And then at the end of the episode, we see him as a reformed convict.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, okay. I got you.
For some reason, hilarious. I think it was one of the Burgess Meredith episodes.
The Penguin? Or was he he was.
No, he was the Penguin.
And, he was the Penguin, right?
And the Penguin is trying to connect with this hardened criminal played by. It turns out Stanley Ralph Ross.
Okay.
That's the.
Okay, that's a great one.
That's the tag, yeah. So that's the setup, and then and then the payoff. The payoff is we finally see the character at the end,
right?
But for Stanley, it was a muted payoff because he didn't get to say it.
Just like saying hello or something. Oh well, that wouldn't stop Stanley.
It would not. Stanley Ralph Ross is one of the many characters who recur throughout the pages of Bob Iles' book, Funny is Money, Funny is Money, 39 plus true stories about how I made a ton of money writing TV comedy. Funny is Money, available hardcover, paperback, and as an ebook through our friends Bear Manor Media, as well as Amazon.com. This is kind of interesting. You had a chance to work with many of your comedy idols, TV idols. In some cases, you caught them when they were still pretty much in demand. Steve Allen is one. Milton Berle is another. But in some cases, you worked with a few of your idols during what you called their in-between periods. Like in the case, you wrote for the Smothers Brothers show, but not the famous Brothers.
Oh, right. I see what you're saying. Yeah, that was we had been working on Sonny Bono's show after he split up with Cher. It's called Sonny Comedy Review with Einstein and Bly, who, by the way, are also champions of ours, by the way.
Einstein being Bob Einstein, of course, one of the writers of the original Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour.
But and then that got, I think it got canceled, it was about to get canceled, and then we got probably through Mr. Ovitz, we got the Smothers Brothers interview with Soames and Kenny Soames and Gail Parent. And of course Einstein said he was all jealous that we were going to go do that. So, and we were thrilled to be doing the Smothers Brothers show. It was on NBC, but they almost made a conscious effort to stay away from any political or controversial stuff, and so it kind of became kind of similar to perhaps to the Cosby situation. The writers there were not really in tune, except maybe for us, in tune to what the Smothers Brothers would do, the classic show that they did. So it wasn't so great. But toward the end, though, they did bring back like Pat Paulson and Einstein, who played Officer Judy, and John Hartford. Like, a lot of the people are very familiar from the old show, but it wasn't enough to help them out. But so it was kind of for me, and I had big anxiety attacks all the time at that time for whatever reason. So that is not a great memory, but I mean, and Chevy Chase was like a writer at first
on the NBC Smothers Brothers show.
Nobody heard of Chevy Chase at that time.
Right, because that would have been about 10 months before Saturday Night Live premiered in October 75.
And we were clashing all the time for whatever reason. So it wasn't a whole lot of fun. But
and as you touched on, part of why it was not a whole lot of fun was you were going through some stuff at home and you were going through some stuff personally.
Right.
So your memory of that time is somewhat colored by that.
Yes, totally. Yeah.
But we're talking about this before we started recording, Bob, that there are many reasons why I like your book.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that surprised me pleasantly about your book is the degree you talk about times such as when you had anxiety attacks and panic attacks.
Yeah.
Do I really belong in this industry? And I wrote this down, and I don't know whether one has anything to do with another or not, but you, in your first 5 years in TV, you won 2 Emmy Awards.
Yeah.
And yet, even though one would think, okay, 2 major awards, that would set me up, it was still a struggle for you to find your piece of ground in TV, because you were getting good jobs, but they were not always jobs that fit your sensibilities.
Right.
So my question is, did the fact that you had the Emmy win and still were kind of up and down, did that contribute to the anxiety, or was it, or am I reading too much?
Oh, well, I don't know.
And Bob will answer that question when we play part 2 of our conversation with Robert Iles next week on TV Confidential. Bob will also share a few more stories about his 42-year career writing and producing comedy for television, including writing for Dick Van Dyke on what turned out to be the final season of The Carol Burnett Show, collaborating with Alan Thicke and Harry Shearer on both Fernwood Tonight and America Tonight, and how Bob first felt truly at home in television when he was a staff writer for the Captain and Tennille variety show. Part 2 of our conversation with Robert Iles next week on TV Confidential. In the meantime, Funny is Money. Funny is Money, 39 true stories about how I made a ton of money writing TV comedy by Robert Iles, available wherever books are sold, Bear Matter Media, as well as Amazon.com. We'll be back with more TV Confidential right after this.
Sit, Iles, sit. Listen, were you forced into getting a solar contract and now you just don't want it anymore? Maybe the solar company misled you. Or is your solar contract buried with hidden fees? Are you not saving the amount of money you thought you would on your energy costs? Don't worry. At the Solar Exit Hotline, we can help you cancel your solar contract, even if the panels are already installed. Our experienced legal team will review your contract and help you cancel it, possibly saving you thousands of dollars. You got to call right now for complete details. So listen, if you're not happy with your solar contract for any reason, we are here to help you cancel it. Call the Solar Exit Hotline now for immediate options to help you exit your solar contract. This call is 100% free.
800-908-7197. 800-908-7197. 800-908-7197. That's 800-908-7197.